All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
Something, witty remark. I'm wildly underprepared.
Well,
I just want to get that out of the way early doors.
You're ending your participation in the recent episodes as you always do it. Do you know what I mean? Just underprepared and over-deliver. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. But do you know what? I don't know if I told you this. I don't know if I said it on air, but I did a trip in the winter.
Okay.
And my driver was a proper over-promiser.
Yeah.
And the way he was bigging up, the first one he bigged up, the first like activity thing he'd lined up, he bigged up. I was like, even I bought into it. I was like, this is going to be fucking... I can't remember, but I was like, I'm fucking
We're
here for
going
this.
bobsledding.
It might have even been a dinner or something.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fucking here for this. Do you know what I mean? Let's fucking go.
I'm ride or die for this guy right now.
And then we get there and it was like, oh, it's all right.
Yeah.
But then I sort of clocked straight away. It's like, oh, man. Because you're just going to overpromise to every single person on board.
Yeah.
And if they're anything like me, they're going to be turning up to everyone going, ain't that good? Do you know what I mean? You've got to under-promise.
Yeah.
You've got to promise enough to get hyped.
Yeah.
And then cap it there.
See, I'm the sort of... Let's keep expectations low.
100%.
Because then I'm like a god in comparison.
I'm going to
We're
deliver.
talking about exclusively sexually here. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, my goodness.
Make sure the woman's prepared for the absolute shittest experience, and then when you're barely mediocre, like in reality, you seem like you're exceedingly good.
I text my missus
Poorly
when we when I came back from one of my trips.
Yeah.
Or I was on my way back. I think it might have been the last trip.
Things I'm going to do to you.
I was like, prepare yourself for the best 30 seconds of your life.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've had moments where I've been like I've talked a big game.
It happened.
And you're like...
You get caught up in the moment.
Yeah. The reality is quite something else. And you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Do you know what I mean?
That's where I can't help myself, because I have found myself laughing to myself in the act, because all I'm thinking is, this is nothing like what was promised. And I have massively missed
Yeah,
out.
you have to be really careful, because you can have moments where you're like, I wonder what I look like from the other angle, and you can like sort of come out of yourself almost, and it just ruins
big time
the
it ruins.
whole... Yeah.
But for sure, I could be like, there's certain occasions where it's like, if she gets a lawyer, she could sue me because I've properly missold that.
Like that story of that Asian gentleman that sued his wife the morning after their wedding.
What?
Because they hadn't seen each other, or like all he'd seen of her were like these photos or like this really pristine version of her.
Yeah.
And the reality of her with no makeup the next morning and looking normal, he felt he'd been missold goods.
Well, didn't it tell me you've never seen a woman without telling me you've never seen a woman?
Yeah. It's quite incelly behaviour, isn't it?
Very incelly behaviour.
Yeah.
But the incels, I think, have it in for us, no? Are they not the ones who call us dirty matrix men?
I mean, we haven't been called that for a while. I think they've lost interest.
I'm clinging on to it.
It's more the fat police that are after us, to be honest, like particularly me. But again, even that's died down, to be honest. The main comment we'll get is like, they shouldn't let just anyone have a podcast or something along those lines.
And did you know what?
And I always reply to it as the pod, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't agree more. It makes me sick, or something like that.
And the realistic answer is really, really obvious. Don't listen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a million podcasts. I don't listen to every podcast.
Yeah. I do wonder what I would think sometimes. I do think about when I put a video out there. Like, imagine you've never watched our podcast before and a random clip of us just comes up, what I'd think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe we should do that as an experiment sometime. Just a thought experiment. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. What the fuck? Thought experiment? That's a real thing, but it's not this.
No, it's not this. We're not a thought experiment.
We're real.
Do you know we've been going for 6 years, though?
6 years, motherfucker.
Yeah, over 8,000 downloads, audio only.
Yeah, baby.
Not including clips and things like that. I think we must have hit 200 episodes now as well.
Where were we 6 years ago? I don't mean physically. I mean,
we were in your
mansion.
Family estate, yeah. It was so big.
Private little wing.
I never quite knew where I was.
I think we were in a staff room.
Probably.
Kicked them out of their quarters, yeah.
I wasn't allowed to see the rest of the house.
You got to earn that.
Well, and I think there was a comment from your parents about the fact I was dating someone from Croydon, and it sort of made them feel physically sick.
Me too. I just push past it.
Yeah. It's for the best, isn't it?
You know, I can tolerate Leanne until the Croydon comes out, and then my poshness takes over, and I just feel physically unwell.
I'm trying to beat that out of her, but she's willful.
I'm glad. No, they're a spirited bunch, them Croydon lot.
They are.
They're a spirited lot.
Yeah. What's the phrase? You can take the
girl out of Croydon, but you can't take the Croydon out of the girl.
Do you know what I mean?
Amen, sister.
I think I've read that in like Shakespeare somewhere.
Shakespeare spoke about. Do you know Shakespeare was very close to setting a lot of his plays in Croydon?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You said that with a fair amount of authority, and because you study a lot of historical stuff, for a moment
there was a little 1% where you were like,
I can see why as people get older they're more vulnerable to scams, because we all have like tiny. Like, oh, okay. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, only there's a prince.
So if you could just think of a way to make money out of that one, do you know what I mean?
Sure. I could see me being a scammer when I'm older.
No,
I'm not proud of it, but
I know the one of the most scummiest things you can do on the planet is target like the elderly, and do you know what I mean?
No, they shouldn't have hoarded generational wealth. That's
it is mental though. It was. I was talking on that subject of like how mental it is. Like I was saying to my mum, like I don't disagree that like our parents' generation had it hard. Because I'm sure they did. I'm sure
they did,
hard.
100%.
But like, I was like, how much did you pay for our current family home? And she told me the number, and I nearly fell over because it's gone from like 40 or 50 grand to now being worth
10 times that.
Yeah. And it's like, and so you and Dad in the position you were then couldn't afford.
No, I also think, like, I know not to bang on about it, but I think the whole thing that a working family back in the day, back in our parents' day, would be able on 2 salaries. I really lost my train of thought then. On 2 salaries, would be able to.
You've been celebrating.
Like, don't get me wrong. They work very hard, and they had to stretch their money very far. Yeah. I'm not denying that, and definitely during when there was like a little crash in the 90s, like I get it. It was really tough, and a lot of people did lose their homes as a result of that. But at the end of the day, they worked hard and they stretched their money, and the attainable goal at the end of it was a property.
Yeah,
2 people living
and normally
together,
a decent property,
could afford a property and raise a family in that property. And usually, when the 2, mostly at that time would have children, obviously less common as generations get older, as generations move on, they'd have kids, and generally one parent would stay home. Now normally that would stretch the finances really tight, and that parent would often have to pick up a part-time job, but you could still afford the mortgage on a full-time job, a mortgage and all your living expenses on a full-time job and a part-time job. And okay, you needed the 2 full-time jobs just to get on the ladder, but now, you know, realistically, okay, it's a bit different for me because I don't have like a proper salary job. But if I take my salary from what I was on a couple of years ago, even if I raise that at the rate of inflation, which by the way, it 100% wouldn't have been. No,
you'd have been around.
I'd have been on exactly what I was on.
Yeah, maybe a 1 or 2% rise.
But let's say I did raise it with the rate of inflation and I put it together, we still would not be able to afford a property.
No.
We just wouldn't.
No.
And I know you guys are in the same boat. And it's like, we work hard and we stretch our money.
Without a deposit available to you.
And I'm well aware that a lot of our parents had help from their parents and stuff.
To be fair, my parents, I could be wrong. I don't think my parents did, to be fair.
My parents did.
I think my parents bought early in like lesser areas that were cheaper. And then just as they had more money, they like upped the property a couple of times until they came here, and that was it. But yeah, no, I don't think they did, to be fair. But yeah. Anyway, that wasn't what I...
No, not at all.
Another really sad subject is what happened last night.
Yes, so obviously this is going to be a little bit behind in terms of you listening to us, what we're recording.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more information will come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, presumably you're talking about
the Liverpool title parade. Yeah,
Liverpool title parade.
I mean, at time of recording, no one has passed away to my knowledge.
No, a handful of people in very serious condition in hospital.
Yeah, and again, we don't know a lot of detail other than a white man in his 50s that's British.
And I'm sure...
drove his car into a crowd of people.
I mean, first I want to just put my thoughts out there. It's a unique for me as well, because for the first time I was also at an open-top bus parade on that day, and the idea of anything like that happening on what
Opposite
is such a happy day, you know, for us, my best memory. So we went into the ground afterwards, which was a fucking chaotic joke trying to get into the ground. By the way, I'll go for it anyway. We'll get to the Liverpool thing. So my favourite memory of the day is we started at the day we got there. We were at the top of the road, on top of the Holmesdale Road. Yeah. We were on one side, which was the houses side, and a couple of the guys I knew that I worked with at Palace were on the other side. So me and this loudmouth bloke on this side, we were just singing songs, and we were sort of getting them to join in. So we were the right side, they were the left side, and we were like, left side, give us a song, all that kind of back and forth. Yeah. And it was just good fun, and slowly more people sort of joined in. But then we'd be like, to the people at the top of the road, we'd be like, top side, give us a song. Oh, boo, because they were boring and they didn't start anything. You know, we were singing to the police, give us a wave, give us a song. And at one point, so there were two girls behind us as well. One was an Arsenal fan, because she was literally early doors in the day. She had her phone out. This is something you type. This is not something you speak into the phone for. Yeah. She went, what are some Palace songs? And it was like, oh, sweetheart. But then the other one that she was with, at one point, Arsenal fan when we were singing, oh, Bill, give us a song, she was like, oh, I wanted to join in. She's like, but who's Bill? And we were like, but these absolute memories. There was a bloke stood in the window, in the top window of the house on the corner with the Wilfred mural, and he just sort of stood in the window, and we were all like waving at him, and everyone being like, give us a wave, give us a wave. He just stared like this. No, in fact, that's doing it a disjoint. He did it like this. I don't know if he's a Palace fan. Then he did give a little thumbs up. It would be weird
if he wasn't, wouldn't it?
And we were
you're
like,
obviously allowed to live around there if you're not.
And he came to his door, a mate went in, and his mate was all happy and waving. Contrast, chalk and cheese. Yeah. But that was my memory. Then they kind of, as the bus came round, incredible. And this is something I never thought would happen as well. I sort of started a sing-along. So when we were watching it, we were like, they're not even on the bus. They're not even on the fucking bus yet. And then when they got on the bus, we sort of give a cheer, shouted out to everyone, they're on the bus. And then I started singing The Wheels on the Bus. And I just did, me and Bex on the girls, we just did one verse. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. And then the bloke behind me, this 60-year-old bloke, turns around, he's like, the wipers on the bus go swish, swish, swish. And we all just had I was like, that's not on the cards. I did not think I would be singing The Wheels on the Bus. And then when the bus has gone past and it's gone down, by the way, the bottom of the Homesdale where the HF were, flares galore. It was just nuts. I'm sure you've seen the scenes on social media. If you haven't, you will. Bus turns in through the black gates shut so they can get all the players off and into the ground. The black gates remain shut. We're all walking down because we're in the main stand. So the display is in the Arthur, the stage is in front of the Arthur. Yeah. So they've got the family stand, the Homesdale stand, and the main stand open. We're in the main stand. Loads of people in the main stand because it's opposite. It's the first one they opened. Little voice comes over the tunnel as we stand there, goes, the congestion around the black gate is too great. Please move away from the black gate, or we can't open the black gate. If anyone has a ticket for the pitch, you need to go in this entrance. And it's and this went on over about 10 minutes. They released this message 3 times, and it was like, mate, we can't go anywhere until you open the gates. And then, it's just we're caught in a lock here. No. Eventually they did let us in anyway, and we went and we watched they all came out, did a lifting of the cup. Doc Brown hosted it. Nice. With Kelly Summers. Goal of the season, player, the end of season awards kind of thing. It was nice. It was just a nice celebration. And what was really nice is Doc Brown ran into, do you know the TIFO that they did at Wembley, the 2 boys? He ran into them just earlier in the day by happenstance, and he sort of said, look, I can't not get you up on stage. So after it was all done, he was like, he got them up on stage and he got them to play Elvis, Can't Help Falling in Love. Oh. And it was just beautiful
Everyone's
moment.
Crying.
But yeah, I can't imagine that moment that's so emotional and so beautiful. And marred by something so horrible. Obviously that's a horrendous thing to happen any time, but to happen on such a happy day and do you know what? It was that even though it was raining, you don't care.
No, you don't give a
You're
fuck.
celebrating. I'm sure the Liverpool fans are exactly the same. They don't care that it's wet and grey and miserable.
No, they're just happy their teams won the league.
They've won the league and they're celebrating it.
And they've already had in recent times a horrific event happen to their people. Do you know what I mean? With the Southport issue, and then.
Well, do you think, as a jumping off point, and to just veer into the political element a little bit, do you think the Southport aftermath is the reason why they were so quick to release the details about this attacker?
The thing is, as soon as you text me, I went on to Twitter, went on trending, and obviously Liverpool Parade was there, so I click on it. And you literally saw it happen immediately. There was just a wave of tweet after tweet after tweet saying, I bet you they cover up the fact it wasn't a white guy. And then you get the images coming out of the white guy in the car that is the guy that's driven the car, and them having to release the information. But yeah, otherwise they wouldn't have, I don't think.
Do you think there would have been another wave of Southport riots had they not released it? Had they just kept it quiet for weeks and weeks and weeks?
Yeah, probably. There probably would have been. Because the assumption, and no one was covering it up with the Southport one. That was the ridiculous thing, wasn't it? But even now, people are like, well, he's not really British, is he? But with this guy, again, we don't know. I'd really like to know why he did it.
Of course.
Was he just a bit of a nutter? Did he have a breakdown? Was it motivated in any particular way?
Or was it targeted? Or was it a planned thing? Or did he have a heart
attack and put his foot down on the...
Well, I don't think it looked like a
No, I know, but we just don't know.
No, but what were his reasons for...
Yeah.
If he planned it, why?
I don't think anyone would be calling for riots after this.
No, well, where's the outpouring? When the Southport thing happened, and in the riots were bubbling away. They hadn't kicked off yet, but they were bubbling away. There was all the talk about the victims, and the care and the concern for the victims, and that our can't come into our,
Yeah.
There is an outpouring of love for the victims.
Do you think there'd have been riots?
But it's not the same.
If the Southport killer
had it been white, and Christian,
no,
I
don't think so. No, I don't.
I don't. And genuinely, there's not. I'm not saying this as some.
It's so easy when we talk about these things. I feel like because we don't, and I've said I don't want to just insult people and go straight for the easy answer, but I feel like we dance around what the answer is, which is that it's racially motivated.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas I look at the guy who did that, and I imagine he's probably an incredibly psychological. Like I've read stuff about him. He's fucked up. Do you know what I mean?
The Southport.
There's something wrong with him. That doesn't excuse what he did, but there's something wrong with him. It's got nothing to do with whatever.
But his race and his faith and anything are completely irrelevant.
But that's what they see, isn't it? That's what they were angry about, that someone like that killed white children.
I don't say this as a it comes across, I'm well aware that I'm some righteous lefty preacher, but I genuinely don't have any doubt in my mind, because when you look at
if all the victims weren't white, I don't think there'd have been riots either.
Because think about this. There's been a number of, I say a number, but there have been white and white working class grooming gangs caught in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
There's no uproar about them. They're not slapped.
No,
they're not getting circulated. They're not getting rioted.
See, the thing is, it's interesting for me because I think I've listened to a lot of stuff, and I think there's definitely a conversation to be had about the Pakistani grooming gangs. But we're also not talking about the white grooming gangs, and they don't get covered anywhere near as much.
And it's just that, when you look at, I know obviously we're talking about the UK and America, and we're not the same, but we're not a million miles away from each other.
We're normally not far away from what they are.
You look at the amount of attacks that take place there, and they're right-wing extremists. And here in the UK as well. Those riots, they were right-wing extreme, but it's it's a different conversation. It's
Yeah.
almost a non-conversation in a way.
Yeah.
You know, when
We don't see that sort of extremism as a problem for some reason.
and I know people will say, "Oh, it's a bit of whataboutism because I'm talking about America," but the framing of it, when a white man goes on a rampage and shoots a bunch of people, the framing is always like, what was going on with him?
Yeah, he was mentally disturbed.
What was happening? Was, and could his school have caught it? And could it?
They don't talk
could his
about,
parents?
was his deep Christian values the reason he did this? Or,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? There's not that conversation.
Yeah, but when they're like from elsewhere in the world,
Yeah,
and they're of a
normally
different colour.
Muslim
or if a black man goes on a rampage and kills everyone, it's like, well, it's in their nature. It's
it's the environment they grew up in.
It's all that stuff. It's the framing of the conversation is completely different when it's a white person and a Christian person or a non-religious person, as opposed to when it's, and in this country, it's more it's Muslims and Asians that bear the brunt of it, 100%.
Yeah, I don't like it.
But anyway, but
But it's interesting as well because around this, I've been seeing a lot online about that fucking, is it Lucy? What's her name? The one who went to prison for.
I don't know her name, but the one who said burn fire, set fire to hotels.
She's being made out to be like this hard
freedom of speech victim.
Yeah, and like, I thought it would be an interesting conversation to have at least a tiny bit in terms of like, how much do we believe in free speech? Because I believe in free speech to a point. Do you know what I mean? And I think we've touched on it before. Like, I think free speech until you're inciting violence. Do you know what I mean? And things like that.
Can I keep it? Hopefully keep it relevant to the conversation that we were just having about the whole race thing and stuff. Do you remember the bloke? I can't think. Was it Abu Hamza? We're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he would stand on the corner and he would preach about these views about the West. And he'd do it in like Hyde Park Corner, he'd do it in London.
Yeah.
And he'd talk about how we need to... I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but those were the messages. They were very violent and, it was
like
encouraging.
Death to the West.
But it's basically, I know he's doing it and saying it in person and she's written it down and put it out into the world, but it's basically the same message aimed at different groups.
From what I remember hearing about Abu Hamza, he used to very cleverly dance the line of what was acceptable and what wasn't.
There was quite understandably, for quite a while, a lot of uproar about it, and it was all generally agreed that's in the wrong. Yeah, you can have free speech, but you can't be using it for that. It's the same thing at the other end of the spectrum. For me, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but it's blowing my mind at the moment seeing how much she's being made out to be a victim, because I think it's the most obvious example of that's.
She didn't tweet, "I don't care about them," she said, "Burn the." I mean, I'm sure we could find the actual tweet, but she said,
I have a little.
She said, "Burn the hotels with them inside." Whilst these riots are going on so she's actually telling them. I know she's not in a position of power or influence, but it doesn't matter.
Right, here we go. Mass deportation now. Set fire to all the hotels full of the bastards. For all I care, while you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it. Yeah, and she was a counsellor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, horrible human being. But it's so odd that she's been made out to be this...
A martyr.
Yeah.
A free speech martyr.
Yeah, that she was just an innocent woman.
She's been silenced for her opinion.
Yeah, and it's like, no, it's not an opinion. You've threatened people.
Now, I know you just put it away, but if you read that tweet without that sentence in it, without the burning bit in it, like as a side-by-side comparison, it's still, in my opinion, a vile opinion, but it's different.
So if you put mass deportation now, while you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. That makes me racist, so be it.
Now, that's a vile, and she's obviously deliberately aiming at she's directly blaming migrants for the horrendous ordeal and the trauma of families.
Yeah.
But that is a free speech tweet.
Yeah, she's not invited.
You then add burn the hotels with bastards in them, and that's a call for violence.
The thing
and
is,
that's crossed the line.
maybe I have a weirdly skewed line. I would still cover general racism under freedom of speech. Not because I want to be racist, but because I think we need that to be out there so that we can re-educate people that is wrong, so you can show them the example of it, because otherwise we talk in abstracts and people don't know it and we allow it to slip in, whereas if we can point to people like her and go, no, what she's saying is racist and it's wrong, I think that's better to be out there. And I think, as I've said before, otherwise you risk also, if you deplatform people or not necessarily deplatform, but you push them to the fringes.
They congregate in the fringes.
More extreme, and that's where like the incel movement comes from.
But I truly believe that. I don't like that, and I disagree with it completely. But that is a free speech thing. Yeah. Once you add the call for violence, that crosses the line.
Absolutely,
and you should be punished by the law.
It feels like a really weird sentence to say that I'm okay with racism. I'm not okay with racism, but I'm okay with people being racist not being silenced, because I think it's better that they're.
But there's a difference between holding a view and then calling for violent action. Yeah, that's the difference.
Because we all know, like, ignorant people or uninformed people or people conditioned by the people around them that aren't actually racist, they're just ignorant and a bit thick. Do you know what I mean? To talk down to them for a moment.
And with that specific incident as well, that specific tweet, in the context of the whole riots, and the country was subject to riots, it was started online. Yeah, it came from misinformation online. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's misinformation on her part. I think it's poor information, but I don't think it's necessarily misinformation.
With her being a counsellor, I see her as someone that's using the racial element of the right-wing political movement to drum up her support, and she was probably getting so much support online that she kept pushing it further and further, because she was like, well, the more extreme I am, the more attention I get. And I think maybe it's backfired on her. That's the impression.
But I do definitely think that, in the context of it, they had to be clear about what you can and can't say online, because it's literally, and I know as well, it's difficult because, again, we're talking about free speech and stuff, but there's certain instances, with the grooming gangs and stuff, there's people like Tommy Robinson who's put a lot of stuff on social media out about certain cases and stuff. And it's jeopardised the cases. It means that these people who are absolutely guilty of the thing he's doing, and like you said, you sort of touched upon it, it's like people aren't wrong to be worried about those things. Yeah. But you've nearly let them walk free because you were because of what you were doing and the way you were doing it.
Well, and the thing is, he was proven wrong, like Tommy Robinson particularly, about a lot of the stuff he was saying, and was warned by a judge to not just stop talking about it, but stop spreading it, stop advertising it. And the first thing he did was went in front of a crowd of people and played the same documentary that was spreading the same lies. Yeah. So, yeah.
Again, that's the difference between free speech and
the ignorant fears of regular people and associate them with extreme acts of violence from people of a particular group as a way of manipulating them into believing in the whole ideology and not just the brief part of it, which is stop the boats. Yeah. And it just gets people completely invested in it to the point where they're actually willing to go and try and burn down a fucking hotel. Or, and we don't know what this bloke did this for, or drive a car into a crowd of people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do just want to end the topic on just by saying that our thoughts 100% go to the victims and the families and everyone that was just there, even not just the people but the people who had to witness it as well.
Well, there's accounts just there of to people enjoy that have had to jump out of the way of the car holding their child. Do you know what I mean?
We're just there to enjoy a lovely day, celebrating
a moment that should have been a beautiful memory going forward for them, will forever be associated with this.
Yeah, and as you said, at point of recording, there have been no deaths as a result, and we both hope it stays that way.
Absolutely, and I hope everyone makes a full recovery.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, Another sort of sad subject I wanted to touch on was the Gary Lineker situation. I've sort of gone in a few different directions on this, but I'm interested to hear what you think about what happened recently with him, and I don't know how aware of it you are.
A little. So I'm obviously like with my upcoming trip and with Palace winning things,
You've been quite
and me just trying to fit
preoccupied.
general life admin in the middle. Yeah, I haven't. That's why I'm like wildly underprepared, because I just haven't taken hardly anything in. I still haven't seen Match of the Day from the weekend, and it was the last
Oh, so you haven't
one of the
seen
season,
tribute?
so I still haven't. No, I started watching. They put it on YouTube, so I watched the first couple of minutes this morning, and I was doing my daily ablutions, which is I think how he would have wanted it witnessed. But no, I haven't seen any of it. But I'm aware that obviously, look, he was always going to stand down at the end of this season.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know whether that was always a decision he was going to make because he's at that certain point in life, or whether it was because of the tensions in the last couple of years.
Well, it's funny,
with
me
the
and
Director
Alex
General and
discussed
stuff.
it at the time because I went back to that episode, and for some reason I'd assumed I'd discussed it with you. So when Alex was there, I was like, oh, me and Alex talked about it. And basically at the time it was, they weren't renewing his contract. And they said it was, I can't remember what the reason was at the time, but my basic opinion was that it was, one, he was being paid too much, and two, it was because
Political views, yeah.
yeah. I think the way they've handled it this time round, they've been fairly good with it, I think, in terms of like giving him a send off. They didn't immediately cut him off. I think their hands were sort of tied in that regard. I think if they could have, the BBC probably would have just lopped him off, not done
Possibly.
a send off. But I think because of what happened last time when they took him off air, and other people then didn't go on air because of it, and they stood in solidarity with Gary, I think they didn't want that situation
And
again.
I think as well, like, obviously the incident recently that sparked it all up again was that he retweeted
Yeah, it was a video
and-
of someone who's speaking about anti-Zionism.
yes.
So not anti-Israel, not anti-Jewish people. It was anti-Zionist.
But it
positions.
featured anti-Semitic
Well, it
imagery.
It had an image of a rat on the video, which he says he didn't see, and he retweeted it. And as soon as it was brought to his attention, he
He deleted it, and he's
deleted
come
it
out
and
and
he's
he immediately apologised, and he said, "Look, and not this is again what we actually I don't think it was we've discussed this in the past, but I was talking about this recently with someone and I can't remember who it was, but it was like everyone's allowed to make a mistake
yeah,
as long as you hold your hands up. And you obviously you learn from it.
yeah.
You know, there's people I know that make mistakes and then will make the same mistake again and again, and it's like I don't think you're allowed to keep getting away with
No.
that. But everyone's allowed to make, and he made an honest mistake.
Yeah.
I believe an honest mistake. He immediately rectified. He immediately deleted it. He immediately
Yeah.
apologised and said, "Look, I had no idea. Had I have known, I wouldn't have done it.
No.
And I'm very sorry for that and the fact that I did retweet it." So for me, that I'm not going to say that draws a line under it, but it's kind of like, well,
I think it
that's
draws.
fine.
When someone's got a lot of what I would call like social capital in the bank, and I would consider Gary Lineker to be one of those people, like by and large, I don't think I've ever heard someone say anything negative about him, and that's
No, not
aside
really.
from his political views, the things he's done. I've heard he's quite charitable in the background.
No, but in
Does-
terms of people that know him,
yeah, all you ever hear is good stuff. So like, I can believe this was I don't think with anything he's ever spoken about politically or anything like that you could ever accuse him of being anti-Semitic. So I think it is a genuine mistake.
and also the people you talk about that social capital, the people who give him that social capital
yeah,
also have their own. A lot of them have their own social capital. So like
Yeah.
a lot of the people that are saying he's a good guy are also good
yeah, they're
people
not
themselves.
just random people that are a bit dubious.
Well, it's not
They're
like Jimmy
all-
Savile come out and
No.
going, like, or Rolf Harris coming out and going,
No,
like,
they're all
always
quite,
rated that bloke.
from what you hear, upstanding people.
Yeah,
And like, I think the fact that if we go back to when he was taken off of air, the fact that many people put their livelihoods at risk to back him, I think speaks volumes. So for
Yeah.
me, there isn't like the fact there was even any question over is he anti-Semitic, I think it's a bit ridiculous. You can have a conversation about like, do you think he did it accidentally or was it intentional? I still don't think that makes him anti-Semitic if he did do it intentionally.
yeah, and I don't
'Cause,
believe
like,
he did.
I would have seen that video. I didn't know what the rat imagery meant. I could have quite have easily retweeted that and not thought anything of it. Do you know what I mean? So like, and I'm not anti-Semitic, so yeah, I didn't even think there was a question to answer. But I'm glad they've given him some sort of send-off. I think he deserves that. I mean, look, he's going to be all right. Do you know what I mean? He's got his own little media empire growing in I think it's Goalhanger Productions. Is his company.
And he's also got other presenting gigs lined up on other networks.
And we know he'll get
he does Champions League nights.
He does the gold standard for football punditry, isn't it?
And honestly,
particularly,
he is the thing is, he's so good at presenting and I think this is testament, in my opinion, to how good he is at presenting.
It doesn't.
Sometimes you forget how good he was as a player.
Yeah.
Like, you forget that he played the game to a really high standard, because so many of the players now that played it to a high standard and turned their hand to TV work are wank.
Yeah.
There's good ones, don't get me wrong. 100% there's good ones.
To be fair, he was shit when he started. That's the thing.
100%, and he grew into the role.
Yeah.
And I think he's much better as a presenter than as a pundit, in my opinion.
That's fair.
I think he's an okay pundit, but I think he's a very good presenter. I think he's very relaxed.
Yeah.
I think he makes other people relax. I think he has fun with it. You know, he loves to slip in a little pun wherever he can.
I love the fact every time he ever did an FA Cup final coverage with
Alan Shearer's,
just had to rub it in because they're mates, and it's like something you would do to a mate.
100%. 100%.
But yeah, like everything you hear about him is that he's a thoroughly lovely bloke, and I just personally wish him all the best going forward, and for the presenters that are going to take over.
Yeah, and it's not a bad group of presenters that are taking over.
They're all
to be
right.
fair, but
don't mind Gabby, don't mind
probably
Chappers.
did.
I can't remember who the third one is.
Oh my god, I've seen her. She does it. I'm gonna have to look it up, aren't I?
Yeah.
Oh, deliberately trying to avoid naming them because I was like,
but
off the top of my head.
I do think it's interesting that when it comes to left-wing views and the BBC, they don't mix, but the BBC are happy to employ people that are
Kelly Cates, that's it.
Quite outspokenly right-wing, and they're fine with employing them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only real issue I have with it more than anything is the lack of consistency. And I thought about, because I think I sort of maybe talked to Alex about it, because I was against what Rachel Zegler did, but I'm for what Gary Neville did. And I've sat and actually thought about it. And for me, the distinction is Gary never did it on BBC time. Do you know what I mean? It was always private time.
Lineker.
Yeah. Who did I say?
Neville.
Why did
it threw me. I didn't know what you were talking about for a second.
But Lineker always did it on his own time. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't doing match of the day saying, we support Palestine, which even if he did, is that a bad thing? Not
in my opinion, but
yeah, so that's for me the difference. So yeah.
Yeah, no, big fan, and I love when you listen to him in podcasts and stuff. He he loves to kind of he doesn't do it all the time, but he does love to bring up the fact that he won a golden boot at a World Cup, and he's like, "Did I ever mention that?" He's like, "Oh no, did I not?"
No, but you would though.
100%.
If I'd scored a golden boot at a World Cup, especially for England, and England are notoriously not very good.
And I love listening to him as well on on podcasts as well, and he does always say, he's like, sometimes I want to remind people that football did exist before the Premier League, and I was actually quite good at it when it did.
Yeah. Well, and he famously travelled well as well, which is something that not many English players have done.
Yeah, particularly at Barcelona.
Yeah.
That's had success. Scored a hat-trick in El Clasico.
We wish him all the best here at CrossingSwords.
Yeah, massively. I really do.
Who knows, maybe a future guest.
Why not?
I'd sit and talk to him.
And do you know what else as well, just before we get...
Yeah.
He's a fantastic cook.
Oh, you're talking about the Thomas Frank interview?
No, not just the Thomas Frank interview. I listened to a podcast that he used to do, and every day, every time they recorded, he would cook lunch for the crew and...
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they'd often start by the other people on the podcast being like, can I just say, that dish was so good.
Because he had Thomas Frank round his house and interviewed him and cooked him fish.
And he's a fantastic cook. So if we do get him on...
He's probably one of those really horrible blokes that can turn his hand to anything and is swinging an absolute schnauzer downstairs. Do you know what I mean?
The worst. I've never played darts, but I'll give it a go. 180.
He's aging incredibly well. Do you know what I mean?
He's aging very well.
Yeah.
And when he did his pants thing, I know that was 10 years ago now, but He had it going down.
Do you know
I
what
mean, he probably hit the gym a little bit in the weeks leading. When
absolutely.
it looked likely, it was like, I better.
I think he said as much.
Yeah.
But I think he said not that much because he, in general, just keeps himself in shape. So, but yeah. Enough of admiring Gary. I nearly said Gary Neville again then. His body.
I'm not admiring Neville. Got to draw the line.
I wanted to talk to you about Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, the singer and actor.
Yeah. How aware of him are you? Like, have you ever heard anything about him or?
I've heard about the way he works as an actor.
Yeah. I mean, that's mad in and of itself.
Yeah.
But he basically has a cult now.
Does he?
It's called the Echelon.
I mean, that is a wanky name for a cult, but then pick a good one.
Yeah, which apparently is a reference to, it's a squadron falling into formation is what Echelon stands for. It's a military term.
And are they
No,
military-based?
They're not a military-based group. It basically started.
Is he co-opting soldiers?
No, so like apparently 30 Seconds to Mars is bigger than I really. Like I knew they were a big band,
they're big.
but they're massive apparently, and like they've got a Guinness World Record for like the longest tour on a one album cycle. So like for one album, the most amount of shows ever.
I don't think that's a good thing. I like that it's a record and it's in the books.
Apparently, like they're famous for like really intense gigs.
That says to me, milking it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it will become clear why they do so many shows. They started something called Camp Mars, which was where you could pay to go camping.
I was going to say you don't just mean like Mars with the drag queen.
No, with the band, and in particular Jared and his brother, whose name's escaping me.
It sounds so wanky. I know you've said they've started a cult, so I get it, but like.
And it started from there, and you would pay like a couple of grand. You'd go camping. There'd be private performances. You'd get to, spend time with the band and all that sort of jazz. It grew to, they now go to an island in Croatia. It's called Mars Island. But the actual name of it, let me see if I can find it. Abanian Island in Croatia, where I think they're on it on their own. The lowest price to go, I think it was $1,500 for like a basic tent at this island. The highest price category, there is no price. You have to inquire.
You have to request it, yeah.
The second highest is 10 grand. So make your guesses.
And you know the deal. If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
The top package is called the Phoenix package.
Oh, that's so wanky.
Where he's all over the promo for these things, by the way. There's not an image of any other member of.
I say this as someone who is part of a podcast that in our moments are up ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's up yourself.
Yeah. And in the Phoenix,
is his brother in 30 Seconds from Mars as well? Like, would you not be annoyed?
Originally, it was like about seeing the whole band, but now any imagery you see of these events, it's just Jared Leto. And if you go to,
does he have his Oscar?
Mars, probably. If you go to,
if I'd won an Oscar, I'd carry it everywhere.
Yeah, I probably would. It'd probably be like in my belt buckle, so I could just pull it out.
And I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, mate, can I just give you? What's that? That's just my Oscar."
So you go to Mars Island. In the Phoenix package,
I forgot that's what it's called.
You get private time.
Do you get wanked off by him or something?
You get private time with Jared Leto.
You basically do.
He puts on like intimate performances,
like acoustic sets.
Yeah. Where it'll be just him wearing all white robes, long brown hair, big long brown beard. The imagery's quite clear what he's going for.
It's quite clear.
It's mostly young women at these events.
Of course it
is.
I mean,
wearing white.
Russell Brand's just gutted he never got big enough to do it himself.
Well, he made a mistake of not being a rock star. He shouldn't have got. It shouldn't have
gone down the comedy route.
Yeah. Like right idea, perform on stage, but just not the right. He just like.
There's levels to this game. Man. There's levels. There's the Phoenix level.
And then there's Russell Brand.
Yeah.
And like their number one phrase as a group is "you just won't understand."
Oh my god.
And yeah, like,
do you know how often just in this last couple of minutes talking, I've rested my head on the mic and gone, oh.
And then because I watched like an online documentary about it.
You didn't buy a ticket, did you?
No, I didn't. And the thing is,
I
like some of their songs.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I would, if someone paid for us to go.
I'd go out of curiosity alone.
Plus, I've heard Croatia's beautiful, so I'm sure we'd enjoy the scene.
But I don't go for anything less than the Phoenix package.
But like all of the images that come out of these events of him surrounded by young women, all wearing white, he's wearing white. It looks like a flock of people following Jesus, basically. And so far,
he's always been weird, though.
Well, that's the thing. No accusations, I must say, have come out of these activities so far that I've found. But there are accusations from his past about his behaviour. Not too dissimilar from like James Franco in terms of younger girls and things like that, but nothing that's ever been proven. He's also never commented on anything, like whenever he's been questioned.
Which is the smart thing to do. What you don't do, I'll tell you this, stick with the Ross, you don't release a video in which you say, aren't you focusing on the wrong criminals? Shouldn't you be looking at other rapists?
Or do a Prince Andrew and go on television and say you can't
never sweat. Yeah, you can't sweat. And you know exactly where you were on July 13th, 1996, or whatever it was. Pizza Express in Woking.
When you're a prince of... Fantastic. But yeah, basically he's just a bit of a weirdo. And then I've found out when he was a Joker, I knew he'd sent weird stuff to the other cast members. Rats, bullets, a hog. He said he himself admitted to sending anal beads, used condoms, and when the person said, well, 1 second, you can't just brush past used condoms, he was like, well, at least they were used.
As if, yeah.
But then after people were like, he did what? And like publicly were questioning this because it's weird behaviour, he then went on a thing where he was like, well, people are always going to try and spin their narrative and it doesn't matter how much I scream from the rooftops that none of it's true. They're just going to believe what they want to believe. So yeah, he's just a thoroughly weird dude.
Yeah, I think obviously he walks the line from what is publicly known.
Oh, from what I've heard, I think
he crosses it.
I think he's banging as many young women as he can get his hands on. He's 50.
He's always come
way.
across. He looks good for 50. Don't get me wrong, but you know, Jesus always would. I mean, he never made it to 50, but if he did, I imagine he would.
Well, maybe he is. Maybe Jared Leto's Jesus.
Tell him that when we get a private audience with him, he'll love it.
I bet you would as well.
He'll definitely wank us off.
Yeah. No, you're getting it wrong. We'd have to wank him off.
Can you imagine that and praise him at the same time?
Maybe that.
Or
could
sing
you imagine if
the
that
kill
was like
or
his
something?
Stipulation for every one of these private meetings was you have to at least wank me off.
Oh,
like,
can you imagine?
How's he got the stamina?
Kiss the ring, not that ring.
But yeah, it just everything about it to me was like, oh, it's just a matter of time until it all comes out. Surely, like you can't be up to this sort of nonsense and be a nice bloke.
Very few people who have started Cult have been good blokes.
Well, the thing is, they would say, well, no, that's the thing. They've also sold merch, 30 Seconds to Mars, that says, yeah, we're a cult. So, now you could say that's on the nose, like taking
tongue
the
in cheek
marketing. Or you could take it for how it sounds when you look at the whole picture, which is, yeah, there's some very...
questionable.
If you take the actual definition of a cult, it's a group of people led by a charismatic leader, which surrounds or like is mainly about glorifying and satisfying the leader. And it was like, so on all aspects, yeah, it matches the description.
Yeah,
brother.
But yeah, I just thought
Cult is just. I don't know. I know I've spoken before. I want to start a cult.
Leader doesn't end up fucking everyone. Do you know what I mean?
I wish I hadn't said the last sentence before you said that.
What was that?
As you were speaking, I said, well, you all know I've said before I'd like to start a cult.
Well, look, I think, yeah. And
mine wouldn't be a sex cult. I should be very clear.
Also, like the more time goes on, me and Joe talk about it quite a bit off pod about like
joining a cult.
When you hear about like the P Diddy stuff, like we're not going to delve into that right now, but like it seems like such a wide network of dodgy, rich, powerful people.
Yeah, it's not just one person doing something in their basement. It's a whole organisation.
Yeah, and it's starting to actually come across like not the Illuminati, but like there is something going on.
Well, look, the one thing we know about people any people, particularly bad people, is they look after themselves. And when you're bad, like say for example, if we were both in something dodgy, and you can implicate me, and I can implicate you, well, I'm going to look after you. I'm going to protect you because I don't want you out in me, and vice versa. So when there's a huge web of intricate wrong-uns, they're going to look after each other, because if one falls, it could easily untangle. It could be the thread that untangles the whole
feels like
thing.
As soon as you reach a certain level of fame, or you're about to, they go, look, mate, we're about to get, or like, we're going to get you there, but you're going to have to start touching children. Or like, there's a deal with the devil where it's like, you're going to be selling out arena tours as a musician for the rest of your life, but you are going to have to start raping women. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that's a part of it almost somehow. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds like a lot of famous women are in on it as well. Like, but yeah, it's interesting. And I think with the P. Diddy stuff, there's a lot more.
When you say a lot of famous women are in on it, it sounds like, do you mean in on it as victims who have been victims to promote their own agenda, or
at the moment
help the men commit these crimes?
Potentially both, if not either. I think. Do you know what
I mean, they're not exclusive.
Like having listened to what Cassie, the lady who's testified recently against Diddy, his ex-partner, what she went through. Like, we know when people are being abused, there's things like Stockholm syndrome, and like you end up seeking that damaging validation from them, because for whatever reason you've started to believe that there's someone worth being valued by. And so I think there is some sort of twisted shit happens when these people are doing these things, and I think it fucks a lot of people up. And part of me wonders, is it just these things have been going on for so long in all of these industries, whether it's Hollywood, the music industry, whatever it is, where there's money and influence to be had. Probably eventually, mate, to be honest with you, because podcasts are becoming part of, like, big companies are putting money into podcasting now, aren't they? So, like, it's not going to.
Well, you hear it. We've done a whole episode on Mr. Beast, which you can listen before. But you hear about YouTubers. Yeah. Definitely
they're desperate to get a bit shit of it. But yeah, what was I saying?
Sorry, you were saying about how whether it's Hollywood or whether it's the music industry,
like it's whether it's just something that has always happened, so that it just keeps being perpetuated because the people that enter into it get abused, and then they're like, well, this is just
part of the cycle.
And it just repeats and repeats and repeats.
What breaks it?
I don't know. Actually, holding ourselves
one person, one generation.
Like, if it is a case of like, to become part of the club, you have to start behaving like part of the club. People just have to start turning it down. I think also the more people do their own thing and the less things like this are centralised. I think education's massive. Like, for example, Cassie got signed to a 10-album deal with Diddy. So then she was tied to him for the entirety of her career, because how many people even get to release 10 albums?
No, and the clever thing, and also the clever thing about that is you can release 9 in really quick succession, but then you have everyone delay the 10th. Do you know what I mean? You have all the producers go, don't work on this album, or we can't do it yet. Can't do it that. Yeah, no, 100%. You know what I mean? But it's
but it gave him complete control over her just from that one move. Whereas perhaps if she'd had an agent from early on, or some sort of education, she might not have got.
And it's like, I know it's a very different industry and a very different vibe, so I'm not even remotely comparing the two, but it's like, you know, when Monty Python were tied down to an album deal and they've released what is, in their own words, not the best work.
Yeah.
And they just called it the contractual obligation album. So they were like, there's your album. We fucking recorded it and released it. Now fuck off. We're going to get another contract somewhere else. And they can do that because they're men, there's 6 of them, different era, different time, different industry, and different positions within the industry. Whereas someone like Cassie cannot do that so easily. She can't just quickly go to her bedroom, knock up, 10 albums worth of songs, put them all out in bits, and then go, right, there's your 10 albums, now fuck
off. And I'm
off.
sure it's not just as simple in a proper, like, big record deal to be like, oh, here's just 10 shit songs, release this album.
No,
but
I've heard
the record company has to.
I can't remember the band who I've listened to, but I've seen an interview, or I listened to an interview with a band who said they were tied to a 3-album deal. First album is like, yeah, fine, whatever. The first album was, yeah, fine. The second album was really successful.
Yeah.
So they signed an extension. So now they've got 2 more albums to release under this label. But the second album was absolutely phenomenal. The third album was a flop.
Yeah.
And so the record company were just like, nah, we don't, but they were both locked in a contract.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were in it for like, I think they said about 8 years. I've got to look this up and find out who it was for you.
Yeah.
But they were like, we were in this thing for like 7-8 years where we were tied in to do another album, but they wouldn't let us
do it,
put out the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is mental, isn't it? But anyway, I'm aware of your time restraints today, so I think that's all.
Yeah, I mean, we
for
can.
today.
What's the time now?
It's been an hour.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've just got so much.
No, look, mate, you're going away. I knew it was cheeky because.
And it's Palace. Yeah. I wanted to get one more in, but Palace winning has just changed everything.
No, look, mate, these things is a once in a lifetime.
Like yesterday, I'd have had a whole day to celebrate and do whatever, but I didn't because I went to the parade. Last week, I'd have had a couple of days, but I didn't because it was like we were all just getting together and doing.
Yeah, look, mate,
singing the praises.
I'm not annoyed with you.
No, I know. I'm glad we got one in.
But I'm going to miss you, you know.
I miss you too, boo.
Because you're going to be gone, what, about a month? Over a month?
No. Okay, I've gone through this with Steph. Okay, let me clarify. It's 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Which is less than a month.
I mean, it's not.
Well, don't let her hear this.
I think, how many weeks are in a month, Jake?
Well, how many days? 31 days.
Yeah, but
30,
how many
31
weeks
days.
are in a month?
But there's 28 days in 4 weeks. And there's 30 days.
Don't be that guy, man.
But it's, that's not a month.
There is a month where 28 days makes a month, isn't
in
there?
February for
So
3
that
out
is
of
a
4
month
years.
then, isn't it?
In February.
By all definitions,
is it
it's a month.
February? Are we in February?
Might as well be.
No, this is 4 weeks.
So a month.
It's so clearly not a month. Could not be less of a month.
I might find your missus on Insta and be like, listen to this episode. Listen to it. I've got your back.
Just go straight to the end and be like, look.
No, look, you're gone for basically a month.
I'm gone for 4 weeks.
We could be here all day. What's he searching for? Sometime today.
Lawyer.
I mean,
4
absolutely
weeks.
not lawyer.
Yes,
Absolutely
4
not.
weeks.
You're gone
not
for
a
a
month.
month.
It's not a month.
It is a month.
I am here in May, and I will be here in June. Which month am I missing?
It doesn't work. But anyway, we will miss you terribly. Maybe a bit less now.
The pedantry ruins it.
But guys, let us know what you think about everything we discussed.
And what you'd want to see us discuss when I'm back.
Yeah, and anything you'd like me to discuss while Jake's away.
Any returning guests you'd like to see?
Yeah, let us know.
That really is down to scheduling.
Yeah, to be honest, it's who's available.
It's who's available when you're ready.
And there's a chance, considering what everyone else has going on, it's probably going to be mainly Alex this time round, I think, because he tends to be the most available, bless him. And he's really easy to talk to as well. So, not that the others aren't, but...
I'd love to get his opinion on the whole rise of Farage and whatnot.
Yeah,
not that he's not a believer in Farage.
No, but he has been sympathetic in the past.
But he's less politically...
Engaged
by his own measure. I'm not putting that on him. I'm not being like, this dickhead don't know. No, he says he doesn't engage in it.
I mean, he is a dickhead.
It'd be interesting to see from his perspective why that's going on.
Yeah.
That's just my request.
But Jake, tell the people where they can contact us.
You can contact us through our OnlyFans at Swords Crossing, which is the same as our Twitter, by the way, at Swords Crossing. If there's an OnlyFans out there, by the way, that's at Swords Crossing, what promotion we've just given them?
By the way.
Oh, yeah, but what content? I've just thought about what content it would be. Listen, it's all positive.
Gay OnlyFans.
It's all positive love here. Nothing but love. Love for the bud. One love under the bud. At Swords Crossing on Twitter.
Yeah.
At CrossingSwords_podcast. That will be TikTok and Instagram. So if you want to hit up the Insta, go and check it out on TikTok. We get some good interactions there sometimes with the crazies. Yeah. YouTube, you can just search Crossing Swords. podcast or search the name of this episode. Equally, wherever you're listening to this fine episode, you can go into the Fine Providers detail box, little of the episode description, and you can just click a link, will be in there, and you can follow that to our YouTube page. Give it a subscribe on the video, just give it a like, give it a comment. You don't have to watch more than 10 seconds of it, however long it takes you to click a little thumbs up and type something in the comment box. That's it. That's how easy it is. Just like that.
Super easy.
And you can email us, CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about these episodes. Let us know what you think you'd like us to talk about. Let us know what you'd like Alex to talk about. Now you know Alex will probably be coming back on.
I mean, he's normally
fair.
one
It's
of
fair.
the
It's
guests.
fair.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and get other people.
And maybe I'll put a poll. I won't because I'm too busy. But maybe I'll put a poll and we'll decide after the episode released, is 28 days a month?
I mean, yeah, it's a month.
It
is a month.
On a technicality,
it's not like
4 weeks.
Because as soon as you bring February into the occasion,
yeah, but it's not February.
No, but no one says February isn't a month, do they, Jake?
No, but it's not February, is it?
No, but
if we were
it counts as a month, though, doesn't it? And it's shy of the amount you're saying.
And if this was February, I'd accept that.
No,
even
but
February doesn't do 28 days all the time.
It's considered a month.
Even
though,
February's like, fuck,
yeah,
this is short.
Most of the time.
I'm just saying it's full. I'm going to put it out there.
Well, I think the people are going to agree. I'm going to stand 10 toes down like I normally do on these things.
11 if you count your other one.
Well, that's not a toe.
No, but it reaches the ground and it digs deep.
Have you been talking to your mum?
Leave her out of this.
Well, guys, see you next. Oh, what are you going to press?
Get stuff.
Yeah, she does.
No, I knew I shouldn't put that.
Mama like that.
You're choosing all the wrong sound. Right. We love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.